I think I would not say a new Havells. I would say that it's a continuation of a philosophy that we have been following for many years. Unlike I would say the general thought process that in our industry, manufacturing is not really that important. Branding and distribution is. We've always given huge importance to manufacturing and manufacturing in-house, which means we can develop our own technology. We can, have control on supply chain, on cost, on quality parameters, rather than be dependent upon China, mostly in our industry. And this is a philosophy that we have been following for many years. Today, we can proudly say that, with government now giving a lot of push on Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, but we have actually been following this for many, many years in the past. Today, 95% of what we sell is manufactured in-house. Going by that philosophy, we've set up a huge manufacturing facility for air conditioners some time back, and now washing machines. So the Lloyd acquisition is also now completely Atmanirbhar, wherein we were completely dependent upon China sourcing when we acquired the company. Today, we are completely self-reliant in that matter. And Industry 4.0 is a start of a journey, because most of the factories that we have are actually quite automated. And the start of this Lloyd factory is with 80 robotic points, with automatic guided vehicles. What we have tried to do with Industry 4.0 and a new manufacturing excellence system is to combine all these things together through artificial intelligence, through one cloud, and make this a completely paperless, manufacturing environment, and which will hopefully improve a lot of quality processes, as well as reduce cost, which can be passed on to the consumer. So it's the start of a journey for Industry 4.0 with this new manufacturing facility that has come up.
And this manufacturing facility is in Ghiloth, Alwar. So I want to build on all of this, Mr. Gupta, a little more, and ask you that when you say that 95% is manufactured in India and you're Atmanirbhar, are you saying that only for 5% you need to source from China? But how critical was this 5%? And did it impact Havells' supply chain at all? Did it impact your sales, cause disruptions?
I would not even say that 5% we are dependent on China, because 5% we are dependent on outsourced manufacturing. It could be China, it could be India, it could be other countries as well. So 95% is actually manufactured in Havells' owned factories. However, I would add to this that we are dependent upon for components and raw materials from all across the world, including from China as well. To answer your question, whether we were impacted negatively because of the supply chain disruptions, I think we've managed quite well, and things are easing out a bit more. But we've never faced any stockouts, major stockouts, or closure of factories due to supply chain disruption.
Mr. Gupta, now coming to the hot topic of inflation. Yes, it's a global phenomenon, 4-decade high in the US. We're seeing what's happening in Europe, back home too. Are you seeing unprecedented rise in input costs? And then how are you managing that? Are you passing it on to consumers?
It is unprecedented, there is no doubt, and not seen this kind of commodity inflation ever in my career, at least. Well, to some extent, there are three ways you can handle commodity inflation. One, you absorb certain part of it, you pass on certain part to the consumer, and thirdly, very importantly, also focus a lot on internal efficiencies, whether it's in manufacturing or your overall productivity. So I think we are doing all three of this. We are focusing a lot, especially, COVID lockdowns gave us a lot of, I would say, time at hand to internalize our processes and, to relook at our processes and, bring in more efficiencies into the system. And then, of course, the kind of unprecedented commodity increase is also cannot be fully absorbed by consumers, in terms of price hikes. So there is some sort of absorption which has happened. I would say that over a period of time, things will ease out, which has already started easing out to some degree. So hopefully, that absorption will go away and margins will come up back to the normalized levels. So yes, some part of it is absorbed, some part of it is passed on to the consumers.
Now, Mr. Gupta, if there was one overarching theme in the last earnings season for the quarter under review, it was of India Inc.'s margins being squeezed out because of inflation, rising input costs. So, for example, if I look at the second quarter of the financial year ending March 31st, 2021, margins were at 17.2%. That has contracted to 13.8% exactly a year later. That means in the second quarter of the current financial year. What do you have to say about this, and is this going to continue?
No, as I said, one is the product mix. Secondly, the growth in certain product categories which happened during this quarter with lower margins. It's not really a concern because in most of the product categories, actually margins have remained intact. Some of the categories like consumer durables where the price hikes were quite high, cables and wires, there the margins have contracted. And going forward, as I said, as commodity prices ease out, these margins will come back to normalized levels. So yes, a certain part of it is absorbed. I've already said this, and certain part is passed on to the consumer. So which will definitely contract the margins for some period of time.
Okay, so I guess in the fourth quarter of this year, then we're going to start to see the price hikes, as all the channel checks are indicating.
Yes, as I said, some of it still has to be passed on to the consumer, so we may see some of it in the fourth quarter.
Mr. Gupta, now you have also been one of the winners of the production-linked incentive schemes of the government. Tell us more about it.
Well, the government came out with PLI for certain product categories to increase competitiveness in manufacturing in certain industries. In our industry, air conditioners and LEDs are also benefited by that. We have applied for this, and we shall be, participating in this in certain components for air conditioners, which will be taken up in the next financial year. So some of the components of air conditioners will be participating through the PLI scheme of the government.
Now, if you didn't face the kind of supply constraints that a lot of your competitors might have, the value might have been robust, right, for Havells. But channel checks do indicate that demand has started to come down since the festive season. First of all, is that a correct trend? And how has it panned out for Havells?
Well, I think, we really can't buck the industry trend very differently. So I would say that, the demand in the festive period was robust. And obviously, because, in that robustness, sometimes the channel also stuffs in more inventory. We have seen some sort of inventory normalization during November and December. I think what underlying demand hopefully should come back very soon because, the real estate sector is still doing well. And that is a very positive sentiment, which has not been seen for many years in the past. So real estate is doing well. Government infrastructure spending is continuing. So we hope that in the next few quarters, we shall be seeing robust demand coming forward. So I think, this may be very temporary, but we should be seeing some good trends in the coming times.
So, Gupta, we're going to make this one of my final questions for you. You started this interview by talking about robotics and, how you're embracing Industry 4.0, the times that we are in, the digital times that we are in. Are you also having to maybe change your strategy of reaching out to consumers? Basically, what I'm trying to get at is what kind of digitization are you adopting at Havells to just reach out to your consumers or your distributors?
I think the pandemic, I would say that Havells was pretty much ready for quite a lot of digitization initiatives in the field, in the sales force, and to reach out to the consumers. And the pandemic actually quickened the adoption of technology, not only by in the metro towns, but also in the small towns, in the rural areas, and our readiness in digitization was actually well adopted during this time. So I would say this will continue. A lot of digital initiatives will be seen to reach out to the consumer, to the retailers, and you will see more and more adoption of such technology in the future. So I think Havells, I would say, is pretty much ready for the future trends.
But what is that?
As I said, a lot of things happening more on the digital medium, which includes the mobile phones or the laptops, rather than picking up phones, or physically a lot of movements happening. So, and also the consumer reaching out in many more ways to buy the product than just going physically to a store. Online sales is one, but online to offline. Pandemic has not only intensified the sales in the online channel, but also offline, which is very close to their local neighborhoods. That also has improved. So I would say the interaction with the consumer is going to be far more digital, but not necessarily it will take the physical infrastructure away.
And Mr. Gupta, the belief is that, it's going to be easy for you to do price hikes when it comes to cables, moderately easy when it comes for the electricals, but for the white goods, it's going to be difficult. Would you agree with what analysts are saying?
Well, in cables and wires, I think this actually goes with the gross margin of the products, and that's why maybe the analysts are saying this. The cables and wire being the lowest in gross margin, so definitely it has to be increased, and there is more absorption capability in terms of electrical goods, and that's why we may actually see more of absorption by the companies. White goods definitely has seen contracted demand during the last 2 years because of the pandemic. The biggest seasons are April, May, June, or March, April, May, June. Those were affected. So hence, all the companies would be very keen to take maximum advantage during the coming season. So there could be some limited possibility of complete price hikes as much as the cost increases happen. But we will see how it goes.